Hey everyone. If you're wondering why it took a while to upload this, for starters, I did not want to make two Avatar videos back to back, and second, I also did not want to risk angering the Avatar fandom again. But after seeing the Aang movie and reading the mixed reviews, I felt like I actually had a lot to say about it. It seems like fans either love or hate this movie, and I don't like saying this, but I am leaning towards the latter on this. So, before I begin, I really wanted to like this film, but as more and more info started coming out, my expectations were getting lower. The first sign of trouble was when it was immediately announced right off the bat that they were going to be replacing the entire voice cast. And on one hand, I can sorta respect the creator's decision to find actors who match the characters' races and ethnicities, but at the same time, it still does feel like cutting ties to the fan base, especially when you're treating this like the big return of these characters that we've grown to love. And then the film got leaked, and then the cracks really started to show when the trailer came out, and no joke, the first time I saw the trailer, I did not even think it was real. I thought it was some fan-made AI concept trailer. Like, I cannot believe they looked at that trailer and thought it was acceptable. But I tried putting my doubts aside because I still did want to believe that it could be good, because the original series always was a huge influence on me when I was younger. Though I have to be completely honest, the first 10 minutes, I was struggling to get through this movie. And it's hard to even tell where to begin because it's just one thing after another. Every step of the way just feels like another disappointment waiting to happen. I think there are a lot of good reasons why Paramount did not want to release this theatrically. I will admit, there are moments where the animation does look really good. I can tell the artists who worked on this movie really did try to make it look professional. But the animation highlights are too far and few in between the constant motion tweening, which made a lot of the movements look flat and robotic compared to the original series. Now, I am not completely against motion tweening. Sometimes it can work depending on what style you are going for. But in some cases, especially in action cartoons, it can come off looking really low budget. And in Avatar's case, that is exactly how it looks. Now, just like the original series, this also takes a lot of influence from anime, and motion tweening is only ever used sparingly in anime, so it really does not complement the look that the creators are going for. Because of the constant motion tweening, there are very few in-betweens, so instead of having characters flow from one pose to the next, they just slide and bounce around before jump cutting into different poses out of nowhere. Like, when Katara goes to hug Aang at the beginning, I should be excited to see these two characters reunited. But instead, I was too busy focusing on how choppy Katara's running animation was. And for a moment, I thought my TV was lagging. And what made it even more frustrating is that the whole movie has these weird digital filters to create these weird effects like sun glares or glowing lights. Then they have these weird vignettes like a motion blur on the edges of the screen, which happens at the most random of times, even when characters are just sitting and having conversations. There is not 1 ounce of subtlety in this film. And it's sad because I do know that there are a lot of artists who worked on this movie that genuinely poured their hearts into creating the animation. I've seen plenty of behind the scenes of this movie with animation tests and work in progress, but the animation is just ruined by all of the motion tweening and ugly digital filters. That is why this movie looks like AI to me. I don't know if it was upscaled, I don't know if the creators were just trying to make it look more cinematic, but even the Mighty Nine looks more like Avatar than this movie does, and that's a really huge letdown. I can admit that the fight scenes look pretty good, but there's not much to separate them from what you would see in your typical shonen anime. And honestly, there should be more to Avatar than just fight scenes. The original series on Nickelodeon had an amazing story and a memorable cast of multi-layered characters who felt like they were relatable, almost like real people. But here, we are constantly jumping into one fight after another, none of which have any real impact aside from the surface level of, oh, look how cool this is. What I think would have made for a better narrative is if they were able to show us how each of these characters have grown since the original series ended. But when we are not focusing on all of the fight scenes, we are force-fed a mix of bland exposition and nostalgia bait. Every 5 minutes, the characters are constantly making nods to iconic moments from the original series, but none of them add anything to the movie besides serving as filler. And I'm sorry, but we need to talk about the filler because aside from the endless fight scenes and the endless barrage of establishing shots, there are so many scenes that go on for way longer than they need to. Like, for example, that scene where Aang is struggling to climb the mountain for like 5 minutes straight and nothing else is happening. And then immediately after that, you have another 5 minutes of him trying to escape the crumbling mountain. That's what I'm talking about. The action in this movie just seems like filler. It's almost like they did not have enough story to fill out the runtime, so they just animated a bunch of action scenes that seem to go on forever. I've heard lots of other reviewers claim that this movie feels like a non-canon OVA to some shonen anime series, and yeah, that is precisely how I would describe it. The film does not even feel like it's supposed to be canon. It's like a pointless side quest to a video game. None of the main characters learn anything new. None of them go through any sort of character arc that they haven't already gone through. And I do apologize if it seems like I'm nitpicking, but for a movie that's full of action, it does not have a whole lot of energy to justify its existence. As for the voice acting, long before this, I tried to accept that these are not the same voice actors, and like I said, I respect the creator's decision, but most of them just do not sound anything like the characters, and I could try to accept them as new interpretations, sort of like the Netflix series, but I even thought the actors from the Netflix series stood better on their own. Now, not all of them were bad. I thought Eric Nam as Aang was pretty decent, and Dion Kwan actually did a fantastic job as the voice of Toph. But Katara does not sound like Katara, and Zuko does not sound anything like Zuko. Even supporting characters like Monkey Atso and Avatar Roku sound nothing like themselves. The originals were soft-spoken and quiet, but in this movie, both of them are loud and gruff, like Heihachi from Tekken or something. I also have very mixed feelings on Sokka's new voice actor, Roman Zaragoza, because sometimes he does a near-perfect impression, but then there's other times where it sounds like he's trying way too hard. Maybe it was just the script that didn't complement his acting. I do not want to be too hard on the actors because they did try. But what makes it feel insulting is that the movie treats itself like we're revisiting some old friends, but between the voices and the bizarre animation decisions, it just feels like you're watching a group of imposters. And Dave Bautista is literally just there to have a celebrity name attached to the film. The voice direction is just a complete mess, and then soon we're going to have Seven Havens, which itself had an underwhelming preview, and apparently Avatar Studios is also working on yet another Avatar series that has yet to be revealed. At this point, I think they need to just really slow down and reevaluate every decision that they are making with this franchise. I do not know if they've just let the success go to their heads or something, but this movie feels like a soulless cash grab and nothing else. I know that sounds harsh, but I have seen so many fans go after the Netflix series calling it a soulless cash grab, but then in the next breath praising this movie despite its countless flaws. Look, I'm not saying the Netflix series is perfect, it has its own flaws, but at least the Netflix series has character growth, it has subtlety, it has nuance, and that is way more than I can say for the Aang movie. The highest rating that I can give this is a 3 out of 10. If I saw this in theaters, I would have been even more disappointed. I am glad that there are some fans out there who still enjoyed it. I wish I could join you, but I really believe it could have been so much better, and everything that I feel made the original series so iconic just wasn't there. Anyway, thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time.